Trump versus Canada's sovereignty, tariffs, and the North American pivot. For more than 150 years, Canada and the United States have shared the longest peaceful border in the world. Trade has flowed freely, energy has crossed pipelines without interruption. Industries on both sides have integrated so deeply that a car part may cross the border 5 times before final assembly. This relationship has been described as brotherhood. It has been described as partnership. It has been described as the most successful economic alliance in modern history. But history teaches us something important. Brotherhood survives only when there is mutual respect. Partnership survives only when sovereignty is respected. And economic alliances survive only when both sides understand the value each one brings to the table. Today, the conversation is changing. Tariffs are being discussed. Trade pressure is being applied. Political rhetoric has replaced quiet diplomacy. And Canada is responding not with anger but with recalculation. This is not about emotion, it is about mathematics. Let us begin with energy, because energy is power in the truest sense. Canada produces approximately 5 million barrels of crude oil per day. Out of this, about 2.1 to 2.2 million barrels are used domestically. Nearly 4 million barrels per day are exported to the United States. That represents roughly 20% of total US daily oil consumption and more than half of US crude imports. For decades, this oil has been sold at a discount, often $12 to $15 per barrel below global Brent pricing. That discount has saved American refiners billions annually. Midwest and Gulf Coast refiners are configured specifically to process Canadian heavy crude. Gasoline prices in key US regions are directly influenced by Canadian supply. Now imagine a tariff war. Imagine supply redirection to Europe or Asia where market price is higher. The immediate impact would not be political, it would be economic. Higher fuel costs, regional refinery disruptions, pressure on inflation. Canada has leverage not because it seeks conflict but because it holds resources. Now consider uranium. Canada is one of the world's largest uranium producers, generating roughly 9,000 metric tons annually. The United States requires approximately 17 to 18,000 tons per year for its nuclear fleet. Canada supplies close to 40% of US uranium imports. Nuclear power provides around 20% of US electricity generation. In simple terms, Canadian uranium helps power millions of American homes. It keeps reactors running in 28 states. It stabilizes baseload power. Canada also has alternative markets. India, Europe, Japan, long-term agreements are being signed outside North America. Diversification is not aggression, it is insurance. Hydroelectricity tells a similar story. Canada produces about 400 terawatt hours of hydropower annually. Roughly 40 to 50 terawatt hours are exported to the United States each year. That electricity supports grid stability in the Northeast and Midwest. It reduces blackout risk, it moderates peak pricing. If tariffs disrupt broader trade relations, energy pricing structures could shift. Electricity markets are sensitive. Stability depends on predictability. Natural gas adds another dimension. Cross-border pipeline flows between Canada and the United States are among the largest in the world. Canadian gas supports US heating, electricity generation, and manufacturing sectors. Industrial plants, fertilizer facilities, and power stations rely on integrated supply chains that assume cooperation. Then there are critical minerals. Canada is a major producer of potash, supplying fertilizer essential for American agriculture. It is expanding rare earth production vital for electronics, defense systems, electric vehicles, and renewable technologies. These are not optional materials in a modern economy, they are foundational. When we put these facts together, a picture emerges. The United States benefits enormously from Canadian energy and resource stability. Canada benefits enormously from access to the US market, technology integration, and manufacturing partnerships. The relationship is mutually reinforcing. So, what changes when tariffs enter the conversation? Tariffs are not just taxes, they are signals. They signal distrust, they signal protectionism, they signal willingness to weaponize trade. When that signal is sent, prudent leadership must respond with preparation. Canada's response is what we can call the North American pivot. Not a pivot away from the United States, but a pivot toward diversified strength within and beyond North America. This includes expanding LNG export capacity toward global markets. It includes exploring refinery expansion to reduce reliance on foreign refined products. It includes strengthening trade agreements with Europe and the Indo Pacific region. It includes building internal supply chains that make Canada more self sufficient. Critics may say this sounds confrontational. It is not. It is defensive strategy. Sovereignty does not mean isolation, it means preparedness. If Canada builds additional refining capacity over the next decade, it reduces structural dependence. If it strengthens domestic manufacturing, it gains flexibility. If it broadens export destinations, it reduces vulnerability to any single political administration. And here is the deeper truth: the United States also gains when Canada becomes stronger. A self sufficient Canada is not a threat to America, it is a stabilizing partner. Strong allies create resilient supply chains. Weak or pressured allies create instability. History shows that economic cohesion among close allies rarely produces long term benefit. It creates friction. It accelerates diversification. It weakens trust. The real question for leaders is simple: do we want a North America based on cooperation and comparative advantage, or one driven by short term political leverage? From a purely economic standpoint, the cooperative model generates higher aggregate growth. Integrated supply chains lower costs. Shared infrastructure reduces duplication. Coordinated energy policy strengthens continental resilience against global shocks. From a geopolitical standpoint, a unified North America holds enormous strategic weight. Combined energy independence, advanced technology capacity, agricultural dominance, financial power. Divided, both sides lose efficiency. Canada's message should therefore be calm and firm. We are prepared, we value partnership, we reject coercion. We will diversify when necessary, we prefer cooperation. President Trump's perspective emphasizes national interest. That is understandable. Every leader prioritizes domestic voters, but true national interest must account for interdependence. Punishing a major energy supplier through tariffs may score political points, yet it risks economic consequences that ultimately affect American consumers. Prime Minister Carney's responsibility is different. He must ensure that Carney can withstand unpredictability. That means preparing for exigencies, building capacity, reducing anomalies in trade imbalance structures, ensuring that if pressure is applied, Canada does not panic. This is not a contest of personalities, it is a contest of models. One model assumes leverage through dominance, the other assumes leverage through resilience. Canada's path forward should be resilience, expand infrastructure, strengthen domestic capacity, maintain respectful dialogue, continue supplying energy where mutually beneficial, diversify quietly but steadily. And to the United States, the message should be clear: North America is strongest when its two largest economies operate as equal sovereign partners, not as adversaries, not as dependents. Energy interdependence is not weakness, it is strategic architecture built over decades. But architecture must be maintained. Foundations must be reinforced. Contingency planning must exist. The North American pivot, therefore, is not anti American. It is pro Canadian and pro stability. If tariffs escalate, diversification accelerates. If cooperation prevails, integration deepens. The choice ultimately rests not in emotional rhetoric but in economic arithmetic. Canada produces more energy than it consumes. It possesses uranium, oil, gas, hydropower, potash, rare earths. It has the capacity, with investment and time, to become increasingly self reliant. The United States remains its largest and most logical partner. The intelligent path is mutual respect. Sovereignty is not separation, it is strength within partnership. Tariffs may create headlines. Energy realities create consequences. The future of North America depends on leaders who understand both.